So yeah, I'm Jo McConnell, Education Manager, sitting in the UK at the moment in my home office. So really hoping technology is kind this morning. And I'm an occupational therapist for 29 years. Just seems 5 minutes. And thank you for inviting us to do this. And I'm here with my colleague Tove, who's not in the UK.
I'm sitting in Sweden, in Stockholm, at the head office. It's 8 o'clock here, and very thrilled about this. Hopefully the technique will be on our side. So maybe you want to say something from Australia, Nathan?
Yes.
Sorry,
So,
I turned your camera off, so no
right,
one can see you.
That's all right, not a problem. So stepping in at the moment, from Novis, Richard's our product manager, who's taking one for the team and going to get his first COVID vaccination. So he's asked me to step in and just introduce, I guess, Tove and Jo with the star solutions. So as Jo said, PhD and obviously physio by trade, I guess.
Sorry, Nathan, just to stop you there. Sounds like there's 2 people that have the microphone on in your area.
Well, it's only me here.
Okay.
Am I clearer or not clearer?
Yes, perfect.
Yep.
There was a bit of disturbance before.
Oh, sorry. For those who don't know, the Star brand is a division of the Etac company, and Novis have a long-standing relationship with Etac for over 10 years now, and have also taken on the distribution in Australia of the Star cushions within the last year. And if, I guess, what you see today, the dealer sort of meeting here, catches your attention, please, by all means, speak to your BDM, who you'd probably normally talk to on a weekly or monthly basis. And in regards to the training, Jo and Tove will be switching between slides, going from short videos to live demonstrations and obviously PowerPoint presentations as well. So any questions you have regarding any of this, please post them in the chat, and at the end of the session, we'll go through them sort of one by one and filter them out and reply accordingly. And if there is any unanswered questions by the end of it, we'll grab those names and those questions from the chat, and we can get them answered to you privately or via email. So if everyone can please keep your mics muted and enjoy. Over to you, Tove and Jo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, we'll make a start now.
Yes.
So I think we've already said this part. Just saying who we are, confirming it again, and that's what we look like when we stand together in the same place. Not today, we're in our white tops today, not grey. So welcome, and it's we want it to be really informative, and you can hear that I'm a very serious person. So so thank you. We'll make a start.
Okay.
So here are the learning objectives, just to be clear about what we want to cover in this ambitious hour. So we want to identify the unique attributes of air cell cushions over alternative cushion types. So it's always good to know what we're comparing against. That's good for you in the marketplace. Learn about the clinical benefits of immersion and envelopment. Always good to know when we're talking about support surfaces. Understand the Star range differences and appropriate applications of each cushion type. So we want you to go away feeling a lot more empowered about your cushion selection. Learn about the unique clinical benefits that Star cushions can offer over our competitors, again, to give you the sales advantage. Understand cushion setup, sizing guidelines, and seat fitting it to the wheelchair seat. Understand how to create pressure-free zones, provide stability and correct postural difficulties using the Star range of cushions, in particular the Star Lock. So those are the objectives for this session. Okay. And this part is the biology lesson. Always good to start on a really hardcore clinical slide and to remind ourselves of the importance of skin, to give it the respect that it deserves, and to always think of it as an organ, because skin is the largest organ in the body. And if we keep that always in the front of our minds, then we will give the skin the respect it deserves. So let's look at the pressure ulcer or pressure injury. So pressure ulcer, pressure injury, pressure sore. It's all the same thing. It's a matter of terminology differences globally. So we tend to say pressure ulcer in the UK. In America, they say a lot of pressure injury. So I'm not sure what you use in Australia. So the picture on the left is an image of slicing through healthy skin, which is healthy tissue. And the images on the right, which I'm sure you're familiar with, but it's good to remind ourselves, is looking at the stages or grades. So again, terminology, stage, grade, it's the same thing. So that we will call organ failure when we think of the skin as an organ. So the top layer of our skin, if we all look at our own arms or hands, that top layer is called the dermis, and that's where we see the scars, the freckles, the hairs, the wrinkles maybe. And if we have an injury to this layer, it will be called a stage 1 or a grade 1 injury. And that is when we just see a redness on this area that is a prolonged redness that doesn't disappear. And this can sometimes be missed and mistaken for not being the start of a pressure ulcer. Now, going down to the next layer of skin underneath, which we can't see, that's the epidermis. And when this layer is damaged, that is called a stage 2 or a grade 2 injury ulcer. So that is a really fragile layer of skin. If we had a microscope and looked at it, it would be like a mesh, crisscross mesh. So it's a really fragile layer. And once that is damaged, once we've had a grade 2 injury or ulcer, it will never regain its full structure again. So that's a really important fact to remember. And then going deeper down, we go and see the muscle and the fat layers. Fat is very robust and stubborn, as we know, to get rid of, and muscle is very difficult to build. So both really, really robust structures. And that, when we can see the fat and muscle layers, that is a grade 3 or stage 3 injury. And then sadly, what we never want to see, but what we see too often, and what the star cushions are excellent for, air cell cushions are excellent for, also coping with grade 4 and giving backup to the skin for grade 4, stage 4 injuries. And that is when we can see right down to the bone. So that's your quick biology lesson reminder revision of the skin and how it relates to the stages and grades of injury. Okay, I won't test anybody later, don't worry. The next slide. And again, another reminder, if you're not aware of this, going back, time hopping back to 2017 now, it was identified at the International Seating Symposium, which happens every year in America and Canada, they alternate. The message was really clear to the audience there, and it was great for us working with air cell cushions to hear that the message is that air cell technology is the best cushion solution to prevent and heal pressure ulcers and deep pressure injuries. So that's why we need to get more people off foam, off gel and onto air cell. Always say air cell, not air. There is a difference. So why is that so? Because they acknowledge that it reduces shear forces, minimizes tissue deformation, provides optimal immersion and envelopment, which we'll talk about in a bit, is adjustable and adaptable and durable. So all of those messages were clearly stated that the air cell technology is the best solution for skin protection as a support surface. And what do we want to remind ourselves of from that message? We want to be clear what is immersion and what is envelopment. So this is sciencey bit again, and I'm going to actually turn my camera for a minute here so you can see the little cushion we have set up here. So immersion is how much we can actually sink in to the support surface and how well it adapts to the body structures. So excellent immersion with air cell cushions. And then envelopment, my friend the pelvis comes out. Envelopment is how much the support surface can actually wrap around, envelop the bony structures. So it really gives excellent support to the body structures, to the bony structures, because it envelops and immerses, and that's the real benefits of air cell. Obviously, the higher the cells, which we'll talk about in a while, the higher the cells, the greater the envelopment and the immersion opportunities. So we're always referring to references and guidelines, so we would recommend all of you to look that up if you haven't. The EP-UAP guidelines were revised into the end of 2019, and actually that will give you the best practice guidelines for working with the prevention of pressure ulcers. And the anatomy of the pelvis. Why is this so important? And this is the answer to why we have the different cell heights also. So you can see here we have our range of cell heights, like on the image on the slide. That is because we cannot change the anatomy of the pelvis unless we have surgical intervention. So in the average adult, the space between from the top of the trochanter major to the IT bone, like Torva's highlighting on the screen now, in an average adult is between 6 and 8 centimetres. So we have to work with that height. Those are the bony structures we need to support and protect. So with the higher cell heights, we have better immersion and envelopment, so better protection, better skin protection. So we know that our competitors, our main competitors, I don't need to name them, you know who they are, they do not have this 13 centimetre cell height. So they do not have the opportunity that we have with this cell here. Their highest cell height is the 10. 10 will also give good protection. I'm not saying it won't. We work a lot with the 10, but we really want to focus on the 13. We don't focus so much on the lower cells, although they'll give better protection than a gel or a foam cushion. We like to really practice what we preach here. We like to remind ourselves of the importance of protecting the anatomy of the pelvis, always working with the 10 or the 13. And the 13 gives us real advantage over our competitor. They don't have that cell height. They can't work with it because they cannot create the stability that we can. So you get the 13 centimetre cell height with the Starlock. Okay. And again, another reminder, because we need lots of real strong reminders today to get in our head why do we need to go out there and tell everybody that they need to get as many people as possible onto AirCell. So let's look at tissue integrity performance, comparing foam and air cushions. So remember earlier I said we always say AirCell, and this is why. So there are various cushion materials, support surfaces that as clinicians, there's a wealth of cushions to choose from, and there'll be materials, different foams. Obviously, there's loads of different foam varieties, gel, foam and gel combinations, and also air. So air is in a different category to AirCell. So with foam, air and gel cushions, you'll have you will have tissue protection and you will have a comfortable support surface, and you will get a little bit of immersion, but this does not allow any envelopment. So you do not get the pressure redistribution that you can do, the adapting of each air cell. So air cell cushions will, as I already showed on here, will have the ability to adapt to each air cell. So each air cell's individual, and you can have excellent immersion and envelopment. And the higher the cell, the greater the immersion and envelopment. So it's just illustrated with the bags of air, the plastic bag on the side pictures there. You can see on the top image that you cannot immerse into that full bag of air. It's like one big bladder of air, but people will say, oh, I'm on an air cushion, but that will really give no better immersion or envelopment than foam or gel. So always say air cell. So you can see with the other picture that we can immerse right into the bag. So that illustration sometimes works for some people, it doesn't, but it's good to show you a few different ideas to stick in your head. Okay, and next slide. So always good to remind ourselves, what are our seat cushion objectives? Why does somebody come to us wanting a seat cushion for their clients, for their users to go into their wheelchair? So we want to make sure that the seat cushion we're providing reduces tissue deformation. So we remember those slides right from the start, looking at the skin layers. We want to protect every layer of skin, but particularly we want to make sure that we try and make none of those more higher graded injuries occur. We want to provide stability. If somebody isn't stable, don't feel secure, they're not going to be as independent as they can be. They're going to have their quality of life and independence compromised because they feel unsafe, unstable. And positioning, we want to provide good positioning. We want to correct postural deformities whenever possible. So we know we can do this with the StarLock. We can correct posture and we can provide stability and skin integrity and comfort. Don't be afraid to talk about comfort. Sometimes we are. As clinical people, I think a lot of clinicians feel, oh, I can't say I chose that because it's comfortable. No, you can't choose comfort alone. You have to have the other three objectives. But if somebody's not comfortable, it could be the best cushion in the world. They will not accept it. That's human nature. So we know that ourselves. You can have, if you're a runner, I'm a runner, you can buy the best running shoes in the world, spend £200 on them, but if they're not comfortable for you, you may as well want to go back to your decathlon pair. Because it's all about personal preference, and that's the same with a seat cushion in a wheelchair. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the Standard Air, which is also an excellent cushion. So it's one of the cushions in the Star family, and it's a really good cushion for many people. So we mustn't forget about it. It's a great option. It's a single compartment, one chamber cushion. It still has the all the benefits of AirCell, which our competitor has. So it really competes with the other offerings from other competitors, and it will be good for a lot of people. We just cannot adapt it in the same way that we can with the StarLock. Doesn't mean it's not a good cushion. So it sometimes will be favoured by people that don't need to do the adaptions and don't need the adaptions. So it comes in two cell heights, 5 centimetre, which is this short one here, and then 10 centimetre, this one here. You'll get the benefits of the great immersion and envelopment. And for somebody who is really aware of their own posture, really stable, so it could be a lower level spinal injury, really great stability, really independent. They will love this cushion. So that's a great option for them. So the higher cells will always give pressure redistribution, increased pressure redistribution qualities. But some users will like that low cell height, and it will be these hardcore, very independent, very active spinal cord injury clients. And sometimes you just have to give in and let them have that low cell height because they love it and they're used to it and they love that. And that'll be great for impact dampening and comfort. And they'll be the ones that are very aware of their own skin, and they'll be doing regular weight shifts. So they're good to go with that. But we wouldn't say go with a lower cell for people with a history of pressure ulcers because of what we've already talked about. So that's the Standard Air. Don't forget about it. And then the stabil-air. I absolutely love this cushion, actually. It's a really great solution for many people. I've had some excellent results with it. So the stabil-air, in its name, is stable. And that's because if you look at the images, you can see that it has a concealed low density foam cylinder within each cell, apart from the cell that's actually right by the main valve. So in the stabil-air, there would be no foam in that cell because that's the setup cell. We don't want to interfere with air going into the cushion. So that's it, like Torva's showing you there. So the great thing with this is it's reassurance when you have some really remote clients. I'm sure you do have a lot of these in Australia. If people are worried about punctures, let's be really open here. We cannot ever say that a cushion will not puncture when it's an air cell cushion. We know this doesn't happen frequently at all with our cushions. They're very durable, but we can have a puncture that's out of our control. It could be from keys in the pocket, could be from a cat, could be from a cigarette, hope not, but it could be. So if this was to have a puncture, the stabil-air, that is, we would have the security that the people are sat on foam cylinders within the cushion. So they're not just bottomed out and sat on nothing, basically. So also it gives a really good secure neutral posture base. So the cells are in different cell heights. So around the sides, they're higher cells that will give great alignment and postural prompts laterally. And that's it. Going around the cushion, you have the higher cells. And then in the middle at the front, you have a few higher cells as well that will give the femur alignment and help somebody sit in a neutral position. So because of the contour of these cells within the cushion that are hidden, they're concealed. Sometimes we wish it was a transparent cover so we could show it easier. You have to make sure that the valve is in the right position. So you always have to make sure that the valve is there where Torva's pointing now. So otherwise, if the valve was to be put in another position, they would be sitting against the contours of the cushion. So this is really important. And on the cover, it states back, front, up, and all this sort of stuff. So on the cover that's inclusive, that comes with the cushions, every cushion has a cover with it, and it will tell you which position is correct. There is a little hole for the valve to come through as well. So a great cushion, really good for transfers. You'll get great, good envelopment again, two cell heights, 7.5 and 10. Now, if you do pressure map with this cushion, it's quite interesting because you will see the cylinders within it, but we still get great pressure mapping with it. So that's the stabil-air, really popular cushion. Good to remember about.
And Joe, could you tell us which user?
Oh yeah, so with the stabil-air, again, I've had great results and get good feedback that some clients with MS like this cushion. They feel comfortable on it, secure on it. Again, some spinal cord injuries like the feeling of the foam for when they're doing a transfer over using a board or just using their own body strength, upper limb body strength. They like to feel they're pushing down onto something, so they love the feel of the foam within. I've even used this with some older teenagers with cerebral palsy because it gives them that neutral alignment that they're seeking. It gives them a bit of a postural prompt. So lots of conditions give good feedback on this cushion. Yeah, so it's a very versatile, very good all-round cushion.
Good, thank you.
That's okay. Thanks for reminding me because I forget these things. So the Starlock, this is the king of the cushions. This is the top one. This is the Rolls Royce, we would say in the UK. I don't know what you would say, but this is the top of the tree. So it's the ultimate cushion. Before I worked for Etac, obviously, as I said, I've been a therapist for many years. I've nearly always worked with posture and mobility, very complex posture. I used to select this cushion myself. I used to choose it as a customer, and as a prescribing clinician, I would select this Etac didn't own it then, but it was still available in the UK for a long time. So I loved this cushion. I just loved the science of it. So we're going to demystify that science for you today. We want you to believe and understand it's an easy cushion. We don't want anybody thinking, oh my goodness, that's too complicated, because it really isn't. So the Starlock we like to call corrective stability. So stability, stability, stability with this cushion. Many people are told you need air cell because of your history of pressure ulcers, because of your risk of pressure ulcers. But they're not given it because they're told they're too unstable, you won't cope with it, you don't have good enough sitting balance, you don't have good enough core stability, you'll never cope on air cell, we'll give you foam. Right, don't ever let that myth be uttered again in your presence, because it's untrue. Now we have this option. Also, we have all of the cell heights, as I said, and we have the 4 cell heights in Starlock. But we always like to focus on the 13, which is unique and gives us that sales argument and opportunity. And then the 10 is what we really, those 2 are what we focus on for skin protection. But we have the 4 if people need them. So we can create stability. We can create the stability by using the ball pump. So we'll talk about that in a little while. Excellent immersion and envelopment, as we've already talked about, and the ultimate positioning possibilities, so bespoke setups that you cannot get with any other cushion on the market. We can individually adapt every air cell, and we can adjust for individual unique needs that are future-proof, that we can change again and again and again. So somebody with a deteriorating degenerative condition, we can adapt this cushion for their needs. So for your customers, whoever's funding this cushion, whether it's a private funding or whether it's a health organization, this is the message to them. You never need to throw away this cushion because their needs have changed. You never need to get that person back in to give them another cushion. You never need to foam carve a cushion and then foam carve one again. We can adapt this time and time and time again. And I've done it many, many times. So has Torva. We're passionate about it because we've had the success ourselves. If you haven't seen the success, if you haven't worked with it, you really don't understand the full potential with it. So I could talk all day about this cushion, so I will move on to the next slide. So always the sizing is important. So the correct size, we have many, many sizes within the Star range. Also many cell heights, as you've seen, the 4 cell heights in Starlock. So that in itself can be a little bit daunting, a little bit confusing for ordering. So we need to simplify this. It's not confusing. We have a very clear sizing guide, and Novis have this also, so they can assist you with that. It's just really important to note, too many things on the desk. Watch the pelvis fall off in a minute. So we're measuring from edge to edge. So any measurement that's given is from edge to edge, and you can see there that the cells do not go right to the edges. So the mat is wider. So when you're making a measurement, if I hold it like that, you might see clearer. You can see that the mat, the base mat is wider than the cells. So I would always say if a user is falling between sizes, size up, because you've got 2 centimeters all the way around without cells on it. So just be aware of that, be mindful of that. But we don't want somebody on too wide a cushion that it would be causing the cushion to bend upwards like that. That's going to be risky for the cells. And we don't want it too long that they're bending over at the front either. So they're the key things. Important to say, the 13 centimeter cell height has its own sizing guide compared to the other cell heights. That is simple reason. The base of the cushion, the diameter, I think that's the term. I'm not being very mathsy today. The diameter at the base cell of the 13 centimeter is greater than the others. So this is 6 centimeter diameter at the base, and these are 5. Because of that, it's simple mathematics. There needs to be separate sizing guides. So be aware if you're wanting a 13 centimeter cell height, there'll be a different sizing guide to the others. So again, Novis can guide you and help you with this really easily. So I think that was what I wanted to say. In every box, you get the quick guide, which has some really simple illustrations to remind you a few things. You also get the pump, and you get the simple repair kit and a user manual. So there's little tips in there, common sense tips about don't have it too wide, don't have it too narrow. This is the correct size. As I've said, we don't want it overhanging. We need to check that the foot plates are the foot supports are the correct height. So we're giving the correct support under the knees. We don't want to be putting too much pressure down with foot plates that are too low, foot plates that are too high. Again, it's all about good prescription and assessment skills. And then it also goes through quickly and simply how to use the ball pump. But I'm going to explain that in other details in some little videos we have coming up. So that's the quick guide. And now we're going to talk through some of the basic setup of the Starlock. So these next things are focusing on the Starlock cushion. So this is a little video that me and Tove have actually done together in Sweden last year.
No, not this one. You will talk through this one.
Ah, this is not a video. Thank you for reminding me. We have used a video previously, but we won't use a video now. So it's always important when we're working with any of the Star cushions, actually, but this is showing you the Starlock. The first thing we need to do always, let me get rid of this cell sample. So as I said, in the box, we have you'll have the hand pump, black hand pump with the star sign on it. That comes in the box. Now, the first thing we need to do when we get it out of the box, it will be in a cover always. So it comes with the cover. So you can work with it mostly with the cover on, but we're showing you things today without the cover so you can see the cells. So we will attach, so we'll open the valve. That's it, anti-clockwise turn it to open the valve. I'm not sure you can see this very well. Then we'll attach the pump, and it has got a flexible nozzle hose on the pump. It's a dual action pump, so when we use it, each in and out will put air into the cushion, so you'll inflate that very, very quickly. So just pushing in and out, and you can see air going into the cushion. In a little cushion like this, it will inflate, as you can see, in a few little pumps. Then close off the valve. Now you have to put air into the cushion as soon as it arrives. Take it out of the box, put air into the cushion. So that's the same with the standard air, stabil-air and Starlock. Yes.
Sorry, could you just say a little bit about the ball pump before you?
Yeah, thank you, Tove. It's a good job she's here because I'm forgetting all these things today. So thank you, Tove. So yeah, so if it was the standard air and stabil-air, we wouldn't have the ball pump. So you would just put air into the whole cushion with the hand pump. But when we're working with the Starlock, we have we use the hand pump to put air into the cushion via the valve. But very importantly, Tove has just reminded me that before we do any of those things, we need to do some checks. I'm just going to try shutting this blind a little bit to get the sun off that. That's better. The sun's reflecting too much on the cushion. Sorry about that. I think that is better. So this is called the ball pump because it's like that. Before we put air into the Starlock, we need to make sure that you'll see attaching the ball pump to the cushion, we have this black hose. We need to make sure that the valve is open. Now, when it is open, this white valve runs in the same direction as the black pipe. That's when it's open. When it's locked, it looks like that. So if you were to take it out of the box, it shouldn't be, but if you were to take it out of the box and that was like that, that's the first thing you need to do. Make sure that is turned running parallel with the black pipe. So that is open. And then take the ball pump in your hand and you'll see, I don't know how clear it is to see here, just here, there's a round black button that you can press, just a simple press. You will press that and hold it in for 5 seconds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to check that it's unlocked, to making sure it's unlocked and making sure that this is open. You will do that before you put air into this valve. So thank you, Tove, for reminding me of that. So back to that. I've checked this, then I've put air into the cushion. Okay, so that is the basic setup we need to check when it comes out of the box. Okay.
So now there will be a video. But
this is a video and I will talk over it. So Tove's coming to sit onto the cushion. We've done that initial setup. We've put air into the cushion. Tove's sitting on. I'm wanting to make sure that she's sitting in a good position. I've checked this ball pump, but we're leaving it. Leave it alone for now. And then when you've got your user sat well on the cushion, you're going to do a hand check. Now, this is something you always must do every time you set up any of the star cushions. So I'm using a multi-glide glove there, which is a really nice anti-shear material, and I'll be using with my palm up. I'm following down Tove's body in a line from her shoulder to her hip, and then following that line, I will go underneath after asking permission, and I will insert my hand carefully using the glove if possible to find her IT. I'm locating her IT, sitting bone. So I'm trying to locate here. This is what I'm feeling for with my hand up. If you can't find it, as I'm showing here, you can move the knee and then it will become more pointy, more obvious to find. I need to locate that IT. And when I have put my hand underneath it and start to let out some air, a little bit at a time, you can stop at any point. I want to let out enough air to let Tove immerse into the cushion. Otherwise, you're sitting on top of the cushion, you're not in it. You know, when somebody's sitting there, you want them immersing into it. Now, I need to just allow 2 to 3 centimeters of air between the lowest bony point and the base of the cushion. So we don't want anybody to ever be sitting in it like that they're down to the base. We need to make sure there's enough. Obviously, in a low cell height like this one, there's very little air to play with. So Tove's there sitting on the 13 centimeter cell height. We have a lot of air to let out, and I'm checking. You can check again and again if you're not sure. And if you've let too much air out, you can also put some back in. So also checking that her pelvis is level, asking her to move and see how that feels. I'm just checking here. So I'm checking the ASIS. The bony notches you can feel at the front of the pelvis. I'm checking them to see their level if possible. This isn't possible with every user. Checking that they're sitting in a nice neutral posture, and then checking again with my hand, doing a hand check. And what I'm doing there, I'm going in under, checking under the IT, the sitting bone, and that is in a neutral pelvis. If Tove wasn't sitting with a neutral pelvis, if she was sitting with a posterior pelvic tilt, it may be that the lowest bony point would be at the rear, the sacrum, but in most instances we'll be doing the check on one of the ITs. If somebody is sitting asymmetrically, sitting with a pelvic tilt, sitting with a pelvic obliquity even, we'd be checking the lowest bony point always. So that's the hand check, and we must do that before we do anything with the ball pump. So the hand check is the first process when you sit somebody onto the Starlock cushion. The cells, as you can see, are all sort of moving. That's because we're showing you without the cover. When the cover is on, they would be held nicely aligned together, but we just wanted to show you without the cover. Okay. And now, again, this is me in my house here. I'm trying to explain what the ball pump does. So I want to feel, and this is something good that you really need to feel for yourself, want to feel what the cushion feels like with the cells locked and the cells unlocked. So I'm moving from side to side freely here, and this is what a competitor's cushion will feel like. But it will feel like very unstable sometimes for some users. So I'm checking that the white valve is open, as we said, and it is unlocked. And then I will start to pump with the ball pump, and like I'm doing on the video and like I'm showing you here. Then when that is locked, when the cells underneath are locked, it will give a lot more security to the cushion. So you will feel less wobbly. The air will not be washing through from side to side. It will be locked within each cell. So they are a lot more stable now. If I'm not happy with what I've done, if I don't like that, I quickly press the button and unlock it. So when somebody's sat on the cushion, it is good to get them to feel that, and try it yourself always with it locked and unlocked, and you'll feel the difference and what we mean with stability. Okay. And all of the possibilities with StarLock, so we can do postural correction, excellent immersion and envelopment for protecting the skin with the highest cell heights always. And then the fourth picture is about creating a pressure-free zone, a pressure offload. And this is excellent when somebody has a pressure ulcer. We can take away the cells underneath that ulcer, and we have excellent experience of proving healing with that. So I've seen that many times myself. So they're the many possibilities with StarLock. Okay. So on the next slide.
Oh, can't you see it?
Ah, okay, sorry.
Okay. So
I'm going to talk about the locking mechanism on this video. So what I'm showing you here is how the base works. So underneath the cushion, you will see what the base looks like. So I'm showing you there on the video, and I'm showing you here also that this is what the base of the StarLock looks like. And every one of these here are little pockets that hold air and join up, and it's the ball pump controls the base of the cushion. Okay. So what I'm showing you here is actually when I pump the ball pump, the little cells underneath inflate. So each one of those inflates, and then that has made each cell has locked off each cell. So you can see, looking at the base, when I pump, the little cells will inflate. And then when you turn the white valve, like I have done on the video, that will lock it so that if it was accidentally pressed the button, it would not release the air. But when you're working with the ball pump, if you want to reset something, you can actually press the button and reset, deflate each of these. Now, what I'm showing you on the video at the moment is how you can adapt the cushion for a pressure-free zone. So take away the cell where you want to create the pressure-free zone. So underneath the IT, for example, you have an injury here, you want to take away that cell. So that's what I was showing on the video. So you would locate the cell, you would go in with your hand, and you would then lock that off. And we'll be showing this. There we go. So that's what I was showing on the video. So then I've taken away the air from that cell. It could be 1 cell, 2 cells, 3 cells, 4, however many. We can adapt every cell individually with the ball pump. If you're not happy with what you've created, you will just press the button and reset. So reset is that easy and that quick. And once you're happy with what you've got, you turn the white valve. So if you accidentally hit the button, it would not reset. Okay, that's the locking mechanism. So pelvic obliquity, again, a little video. So what I'm showing here is that we can correct pelvic obliquity. I have a neutral pelvis and nice sitting mostly, but what I'm showing you here is, imagine I had a pelvic obliquity. So I'm leaning heavy to one side, and then so we would be doing the opposite to this. So I'm giving myself here a pelvic obliquity, and then I'm pumping it to create the shaping of the cushion. Once it's pumped, I try and sit up against that, and it's really difficult because it's actually shifted my whole body. It has actually done this to my pelvis, and then I've locked it. So that is good for somebody to sit on and feel for themselves. And then they feel like what it's like with a pelvic obliquity. But we would be doing the opposite with the user. We would be correcting a pelvic obliquity. So we would be leveling up the pelvis, getting them to neutral if possible, then using the ball pump to create the shape we wanted. So we can readjust posture using the ball pump. We can level up a pelvis into as close as neutral as possible. And then we use the ball pump to set that posture and hold them in a corrected posture, in a corrected shape. So if you're familiar with cushions where you use accessories to correct a pelvic obliquity, that we don't need the accessories, we just have the ball pump. So many of our competitors have a box full of accessories you have to use. You insert these little accessories to correct pelvic obliquity, pelvic rotation. We don't need that. We just have the ball pump. We create the shape, get the posture we want, realign from obliquity to neutral. Then we use the ball pump, and then when we're happy, we lock. So that's how we can correct pelvic obliquity again and again and again, future-proofed. Okay. And this is the video about pressure-free zone. This is proper video from YouTube, not just me sitting at home. So I will talk you through this and showing how we can adapt for pressure-free zone, which is one of the great successes with the cushion. So we want to take away the pressure under the injury. So there's a couple of methods here. An nice, easy method is to use pieces of foam, any pieces of foam you have, and to identify where the injury is and to place it under the injury. So Torva's using a glove here, a multi-glide glove from Etac, placing that into the glove and putting it under the user before they sit down. So very pain-free, very comfortable. So once they're sat on the foam, Torva's checking the posture here, checking that the pelvis is neutral, level as possible. She's taking the ball pump from the pocket and she's just pumping. She will have checked that it's open. Pumping, that's it, and then locking. And then removing carefully the glove with the foam in it that we saw her place already. Moving the user and checking that there is an area of offload. So we know already, here's the foam pieces. You can use them within the glove or just underneath the user. There's two methods there. So showing you on the cushion here what she's done, what it looks like. She's created a pressure-free zone. So the other cells around still have air in, but those cells where the foam was placed do not. Now, people say, how do I know that the cushion is still set up? So what Torva's showing you here is that she's just doing a quick check. So she's taking the ball pump out of the pocket. So every Starlock cushion has a little pocket to hold the ball pump in. She was taking the ball pump out of the pocket, and then she was just opening the valve here. Always you have to do that. And she was feeling, is this still firm? If it is still firm, that's fine. It doesn't need resetting. If it was feeling a little bit that you could push it a little bit, then maybe you would just do one pump. maybe 2, and then tighten it. So that is just always checking. People say, how do I know it's still set up? You simply feel the ball pump, and this is how you get to know the cushion. Make sure that the people, the carers, the family members, they understand the cushion. So demystify it. Make sure it's a simple thing. Keep it as user-friendly as possible. Don't scare them. Okay, that's the pressure-free zone setup. And then amputee, we get great success also with amputees. So we see some very complicated amputees, as I'm sure you do, all around the world. So very high level amputations from trauma, sometimes congenital from birth. Sadly, I've seen a lot of amputees because of cancer. So for a high level amputation, we know we can create excellent support. So we can tailor make the cushion to whatever's needed. So we want to allow space for obviously the missing limb, and we want to make sure this is where envelopment really helps. So to make the user feel secure, we'll envelop around. So we don't want to be pushing somebody over. So if you used to sit somebody with an amputation onto a foam cushion, they would feel very unstable, they won't be aligned. But obviously with the star lock, we can create space, we can take away cells where we need to. So if somebody's just had above knee amputation, we want to take away those cells, we just push them down. Obviously check that my white valve is open. Now I'm not doing what I've told you to do. And we take those away. So we've created the space there because we've got the amputated limb. So we've created room there by taking away those cells. So if we're not happy with what we've done, we just reset. So we can tailor make for any shape of amputation. And I've done that with really high level transpelvic amputations as well. Okay. Here's some case stories which we just like. Here's one about amputation. So this was a user that I saw in the UK. Sadly, he'd had bone cancer and had a very high transpelvic amputation. The OT emailed me afterwards just to say that it's so great. He loves the cushion. He hadn't got on with other cushions before. So he feels so stable now because what I'd done, I'd wrapped around to really envelop and give him the security. She said he's so stable now that he no longer needs to use the lateral support that he'd been given. So before the Starlock cushion, he was having to have a lateral support on the side of on the side where the amputation was, because he was just falling to the side all the time. So that's now been taken away, the lateral support, because of the stability you've created. He's so comfortable, so he can sit out for much longer. He had a wish list of things he wanted to do. He wanted to get out and about. He didn't know what the prognosis was, so he wasn't able to really leave the house before the Starlock cushion. So she was just really giving me feedback on the success that we'd created there with the 13 centimetre Starlock. That's an example of amputation. This case here is a lovely lady in Sweden. So she'd actually seen the star cushions on the website. She was one of these users that was actually searching for a solution herself. So 3 images which really highlight the difference. So the first picture's here, her sitting on just a dining room chair at home. You can see here she's very unstable. She's having to hold on to the table. You can see the pelvic obliquity, and her shoulders are following. They're also slanted. She has a scoliosis. And she's feeling unsecure, you can see, because she's holding onto the chair and holding onto the table next to her. The middle picture, interestingly, is her sat on an air cell cushion already. It's not one of our air cell cushions. I'll say what it is. It's a Rojo Quattro Select she sat on. There has been some correction of her posture, you can see, but still I would say I wasn't entirely happy with that setup. you can still see evidence of pelvic obliquity and shoulders following compensating. More importantly, on this cushion, the Quattro Select, she was unstable. She'd actually fallen out of the chair when propelling up a curb outdoors, and she was really lost confidence within her home. She was scared of doing independence transfers, and she was losing a lot of independence. So she thought, I must come off AirCell. This is too unstable for me. And then with the Starlock cushion, the third picture, this is the 10 centimeter Starlock. You can see what a difference. Her pelvis is really leveled, so are her shoulders, and she's not falling out of the chair. That's not funny at all. But no, it's really important to say that she didn't fall out. She was transferring again. She was sitting out for longer, and she had the skin protection she needed. This lady had a history of higher graded pressure ulcers. So she needed AirCell, but she was considering coming off it because of the instability and the feeling compromised on her independence. So that was a great result for her. She's still on the Starlock a few years later, and we're still in touch with her. She's a lovely lady. So another case story, just an image really. So this is somebody I saw in the UK, and he had a grade 4 pressure ulcer when I saw him in January in 2019. And then he was recovered to a stage 1. We call it recovered stage 1 because of the scarring. And that was April 2019. Now, this gentleman was waiting for surgery to repair this pressure ulcer. He'd been on bed rest for over 2 years, and he'd already tried our competitor's AirCell. He'd tried many cushions. I will just say what they are actually, because I saw the man. So he'd tried Roho, he'd tried Vicare, he'd tried J, he'd tried J Balance Air, and another AirCell cushion in the UK system, Polyair. So all of those cushions had been offered and none of them had worked. He was too unstable and he wasn't getting any healing. He was on bed rest nearly all day. But with the Starlock, I was able to do pressure-free zone, pressure offload under his injury, and he healed really quickly. He also had the stability he was craving that he'd lost. He was able to use his spinal cord injury. He was able to actually transfer again with a board instead of hoisting. He was out and about in his powered wheelchair. He was living a full life. And previously to this, he'd been on bed rest. He was very depressed, and he was even very sadly talking about taking his own life. So he says, there's a case story about him, and he says, this cushion gave me my life back. So that is the strongest advert ever for this cushion, I believe. And then another case story before we end, and this is just a very recent one. Again, a gentleman I saw in the UK. So another success story, again, 13 centimeters and offloading with Starlock. So this gentleman, very similar to the other one, spinal cord injury, power chair user. He had not got on with any other cushions. He was really struggling, on bed rest a lot. We hear this again and again. People have to go onto bed rest for so many hours a day. With creating the pressure-free zone and the pressure offload, this isn't needed. He can still be monitored closely, obviously, for his skin protection from the nurse. But he, within 2 weeks, was seeing healing from using the offload. This is just me showing him on the little cushion how it worked, explaining to his carers. And now he can sit out for 10 hours a day without concern. And he was only really getting out of bed for personal care, for hygiene and for meals. So this was just this year. I reviewed him back in May, and he said again, wow, he could shout from the rooftops about what this cushion has done, given him back in his life. So I think the case stories just pull it together at the end there. So what is unique? Hopefully you know what's unique, but I'll just sum up here. So the cells have a round base, which makes them less likely of never actually ripping at the base because there's no corners. The 13 centimeter cell height gives optimal immersion and envelopment, and it's unique to us. Nobody else has this cell height. Anybody without the Starlock, that would be too wobbly. We can secure it with the ball pump and make it a lot more secure, more stable. We can lock off every single cell individually if we want to. Unlimited positioning possibilities. We don't have to work in 4 zones. Well, you know what I mean by that. We can work every bespoke setting possible for the user, and we can create stability within the cells. So you never have to hear again, this person needs air cell, they can't have it, they're too unstable. You never need to hear that again.